Switzerland, and Jeff Buckley was playing, and we went to see him, and it was mind-altering. I knew Freddie quite well, and he was a wonderful guy, and we used to sit and talk about...
We're going to carry on until we've finished that. Get on there 25.
At 76, Robert Plant, the golden god of rock and the voice that defined a generation, has finally opened up about something fans never expected. For decades, he's been celebrated as one of the most respected and mysterious frontmen in music history. From his wild Led Zeppelin days to his reflective solo years, Plant has always chosen his words carefully. But in a rare moment of honesty, the legendary singer has finally revealed the 6 musicians he truly couldn't stand, and his reasons have left the music world stunned. Known for his poetic lyrics and spiritual depth, Plant has never been one for cheap shots or drama. Yet behind the calm, there's always been a sharp edge. A man unafraid to challenge the myths of rock and call out what he sees as shallow or fake. Over the years, he's watched the industry change, and not always for the better. Music used to come from the soul, he once said. Now it comes from the market. So when he decided to open up about the artists who disappointed him most, he didn't name names lightly. His list wasn't about ego or rivalry. It was about integrity. Plant spoke from the heart, revealing his deep frustration with musicians who, in his view, traded authenticity for fame. Fans were divided, but one thing was clear. Robert Plant still lives by the same code that made him a legend: raw emotion, fearless honesty, and complete devotion to the music. Even now, he remains the voice of rebellion, reminding everyone that true artistry has nothing to do with popularity, and everything Robert Plant has always been more than just a rock star. He's a philosopher of music, a man whose voice and lyrics help define what rock and roll means. From the roaring heights of Led Zeppelin to his soulful solo projects, Plant has carried an aura of mystery and respect. But when he finally decided to speak out about the 6 musicians he couldn't stand, fans were left stunned. Not because he said it, but because he meant it. Plant has never been afraid to tell the truth. Even at the peak of Zeppelin's fame, he rejected the empty glamour of celebrity life. While others drowned in fame, he sought something deeper, a spiritual connection to music. "It's never been about money or fame for me," he once said. "It's about finding something real." So when he recently opened up about artists who, in his view, betrayed that truth, it wasn't out of bitterness. It was out of disappointment. Those close to Plant say he's been quietly frustrated with the modern music industry for years. To him, it's become more about image than artistry. "It feels like everyone's chasing algorithms, not melodies," he told one interviewer. His criticism wasn't personal. It was philosophical. The musicians on his list, he explained, were ones who had the talent to create timeless music, but instead chose the easy path: fame over feeling. Throughout his career, Plant has embodied integrity. While many of his contemporaries cashed in on nostalgia tours or sold their catalogs, Plant refused to live in the past. He reinvented himself again and again, from blues to folk, from rock to world music, constantly searching for new meaning. That's why his words carry so much weight. He's not speaking as a bitter man. He's speaking as an artist who never stopped caring. Fans who grew up worshiping him understood this immediately. To them, Plant's confession wasn't cruel, it was necessary. In an age where musicians avoid controversy to protect their brands, hearing someone speak from the heart felt like a breath of fresh air. His honesty reminded people of what rock and roll once stood for: rebellion, truth, and authenticity. Even his critics admitted there was wisdom in his words. One journalist noted, "Plant isn't attacking, he's warning. He's reminding us that music without heart is just noise." And that's exactly what makes him timeless. At 76, he still refuses to compromise, still believes in the soul of music. Behind his calm exterior lies the same fire that once burned through Zeppelin's most electrifying performances. Decades may have passed, but his spirit hasn't dimmed. When he speaks, the world listens, because Robert Plant doesn't waste words. Every opinion he shares comes from a lifetime of passion, pain, and purpose. His revelation about the 6 musicians he hated wasn't just gossip. It was a message. A challenge to younger artists to dig deeper, to remember why they started making music in the first place. Because for Plant, music is sacred, and anyone who treats it like a product instead of an art form, he believes, has lost their way. That's the untold side of Robert Plant's honesty. It's not about hate. It's about love. Love for the craft, love for authenticity, and love for the power of a song that comes from the heart. Even after all these years, Robert Plant remains the purest kind of rock star. One who never stopped believing that music should mean something, to do with truth. When Robert Plant finally opened up about the 6 musicians he couldn't stand, it didn't come out as a bitter rant. It came out as a slow burn of truth that had been simmering for decades. Fans who followed him since the Led Zeppelin days know he's never been one to chase headlines or stir controversy. But this time felt different. This time he wanted to make a point, not to tear people down, but to defend what he believes music is supposed to be. It all began during an interview where Plant was asked how he felt about the current state of the industry. He smiled that familiar knowing smile before saying, "You know, there are a few out there I could never quite stomach, not because they're bad people, but because they forgot what music was about." That one line sent ripples through the music world. The interviewer pressed him further, and that's when Plant revealed his list. 6 artists who, in his view, represented everything that went wrong with modern music. He didn't name them out of spite. In fact, he spoke with a calm tone, almost sad at times. Talent is rare, he said, and when someone with real talent wastes it chasing trends or attention, it hurts more than anything else. Those words captured everything Robert Plant has stood for since the beginning: passion, purpose, and truth. What made the revelation even more powerful was the way Plant explained it. He wasn't judging success. He was questioning authenticity. He talked about how the best music he'd ever heard, from blues legends like Howlin' Wolf to rock icons like Jeff Beck, always came from the soul. There were no gimmicks, no shortcuts, just raw feeling. You could hear the pain, the joy, the life in every note, he said. That's what's missing today. Fans quickly took to social media, guessing who might be on that mysterious list. Some names shocked people, others seemed obvious. But beyond the speculation, most agreed that Plant had simply said what many older musicians had been too afraid to say out loud. His courage reminded everyone why he's considered one of the last true icons, a man who built a career on art, not image. What's fascinating is that Robert Plant didn't deliver his comments with anger. There was almost a teacher-like tone in his words. He spoke about the importance of preserving emotion in music, of resisting the urge to copy what's popular. If you're not bleeding into your songs, he said, you're not really singing. Even at 76, his fire still burns bright. He continues to explore new sounds and push creative boundaries, proving that passion doesn't age. He's collaborated with younger musicians, experimented with folk and world music, and yet he's never compromised his integrity. That's what gives him the right to speak so bluntly, because he lives by the same principles he preaches. The day that interview aired, thousands of fans flooded forums and comment sections with one shared sentiment: respect. They admired his honesty and his courage to say what others wouldn't. In a culture obsessed with politeness and branding, Plant's raw truth felt revolutionary. When Robert Plant finally spoke out, he didn't just name 6 musicians, he reminded the world why his voice still matters. His words weren't about tearing down the music industry. They were about saving what's left of its soul. When Robert Plant's words finally reached the public, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Fans, journalists, and musicians from every corner of the industry began to weigh in. Some were shocked, others were thrilled, but everyone agreed on one thing. When Robert Plant speaks, the world listens. It wasn't just any old gossip. It was Robert Plant, the voice that gave life to Led Zeppelin, the man who helped shape rock into the powerful art form it became. His reputation for integrity meant that whatever he said came from a place of conviction, not vanity. So when he openly admitted there were 6 musicians he could never stand, people knew he wasn't chasing attention. He was speaking from decades of experience, from a life lived on the stage, in studios, and deep within the soul of music itself. The first wave of reaction came from fans. Social media exploded with speculation, memes, and debates. Some defended the unnamed musicians, while others praised Plant for his honesty. One fan tweeted, "Only Robert Plant could call out half the industry and still sound like a wise old sage." Another said, "He's not being mean, he's protecting real music." For many, Plant's revelation echoed their own frustrations with how the modern industry has changed. Music journalists quickly picked up on the story. Articles dissected every word of his interview, analyzing tone and context. Who did he mean? Why now? What triggered this confession? Some writers believed Plant had simply grown tired of artificiality. Others thought he was sending a message to younger artists, that fame built on filters and formulas can never replace authenticity. But perhaps the most surprising reactions came from within the music world itself. Several veteran musicians privately admitted they understood exactly what Plant meant. One well-known guitarist who once toured with Zeppelin said, "He's always been about heart. If he's calling someone out, it's because he sees potential wasted." Even artists from newer generations showed respect. A few admitted that while his comments stung, they couldn't deny the truth in them. Plant's honesty started a conversation that had been long overdue. Musicians began talking more openly about the pressure to fit into commercial molds, about how hard it is to stay true to your sound in a market that values virality over vision. Plant's words became a rallying cry for authenticity. He didn't just criticize, he inspired. Meanwhile, his fans, especially those who grew up in the Zeppelin era, felt proud. To them, Robert Plant was once again standing up for what made rock and roll great: rebellion, truth, and soul. His courage reminded them of the very spirit that drew them to music in the first place. Not everyone was happy, of course. Some critics accused him of being out of touch, arguing that music has simply evolved. But Plant responded gracefully. "I'm not against change," he said in a follow-up. "I'm against losing emotion. Whatever the genre, whatever the sound, if it's honest, I'll love it." That line silenced most of his detractors. It showed that Plant's frustration wasn't with modern music, it was with emptiness. He still believes, as he always has, that a song should make you feel something. In the end, the controversy only reinforced his legend. Robert Plant's words sparked debate, but they also rekindled passion, reminding both artists and audiences what truly matters. At 76, he's still teaching lessons to a new generation. Not just about music, but about meaning. And that's what makes him a timeless icon. Robert Plant's confession about the 6 musicians he hated the most wasn't just another headline. It was a reminder of why he remains one of the most respected figures in music history. At 76, he has nothing left to prove. He's sold millions of records, performed on the biggest stages, and shaped generations of artists. Yet what continues to set him apart isn't just his voice or legacy, it's his fearless honesty. Plant has never followed the crowd. Even in the 1970s, when Led Zeppelin dominated the world, he refused to live by anyone else's rules. While many rock stars were consumed by fame and excess, Plant stayed grounded in what really mattered: the music. "I never wanted to be a celebrity," he once said. "I wanted to be an artist." That attitude never changed. So when he finally opened up about musicians he couldn't stand, it wasn't about ego, it was about truth. Fans admired that. They saw in him something rare, a man who could look back on decades of fame and still speak from the heart. In a world where so many stars hide behind publicists and polite answers, Plant's honesty feels like a breath of fresh air. He's not afraid to be uncomfortable, to challenge, or to stand alone. And that's exactly why his words carry so much weight. His critics may have tried to twist his comments into controversy, but those who truly understood Robert Plant knew better. He wasn't tearing anyone down. He was protecting something sacred, the integrity of music. His message was simple but powerful. Art should come from emotion, not algorithms. From life, not marketing. If it doesn't move you, he once said, then what's the point of it all? Even as he grows older, Plant continues to reinvent himself, collaborating with new artists, exploring different genres, and refusing to cling to the past. That creative courage, The willingness to evolve without losing authenticity is what makes him legendary. His honesty is not about negativity. It's about demanding excellence, both from himself and from others. Many younger musicians have since spoken about how his words inspired them. They've called his interview a wake-up call, a challenge to reconnect with the emotional core of their music. One indie artist said, "Hearing Robert Plant speak like that made me rethink everything." He's right. If you're not creating from the heart, what are you doing? And for his fans, this is exactly why they still adore him. Plant's honesty reminds them that rock and roll was never about perfection. It was about passion. It was about breaking rules, questioning norms, and refusing to settle for mediocrity. In a world full of noise, his voice still cuts through with clarity and meaning. Even now, when Robert Plant steps on stage, there's a kind of magic that fills the room. It's not just nostalgia, it's authenticity. Every note, every lyric, every word feels real. You believe him because he believes himself. That's why his legacy will always endure. Robert Plant's truth-telling isn't just part of his personality, it's part of his art. It's what makes him human, relatable, and above all, unforgettable. At 76, he remains the embodiment of what true musicianship means: courage, honesty, and soul. And while the world keeps changing, one thing will never fade. Robert Plant's voice, both as a singer and as a truth-teller, will echo for generations to come.